Welcome to the Wilmac Wire. I'm Emily Miller, joined by my co-host, Steve McDonnell. On this show, we talk with the drivers, the leaders, innovators, and decision makers pushing customer interaction technology and AI forward. And because we're proud to call Western New York home, we also spotlight the drivers in our own community, the people and organizations shaping growth and innovation right here. Let's get into it.
All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of Season 3 in 2026 of the Wilmac Wire. My name is Emily Miller, and in today's episode, I'm here solo with my co-host, Steve McDonnell. Steve, thanks for joining me. Happy 2026.
Yeah, pumped to start off Season 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think I did half of Season 2 maybe, or the last
Yeah.
quarter of Season 2.
Yep, I think you did about half because I would pull you into some randomly, but like you said, now formally co-hosts, we're doing weekly episodes now instead of bi-weekly. So we're talking to a lot more people, having a lot more conversations. But when we were chatting the other day about what our plans were for Season 3, you mentioned that some people had been coming up to you and mentioning they had listened to the podcast, which is pretty exciting to gain some traction with it, don't you think?
Yeah, super exciting. Had some guests that I ran into in the real world that also said that people have been talking to them about it. So it's good to see that it's getting some traction. We are currently not in the studio that we've been in. That's been working out nicely. Maybe a little tease of possibly building our own studio by the end of Season 3. But yeah, it's definitely exciting, getting some traction, and I think we've already recorded some good stuff for Season 3 and have some great guests lined up. So I think looking forward for a big Season 3.
Yeah, same here. I'm excited. Logistically, it's been a lot of fun getting kind of our guest list together and having people reach out to us about being excited to be on it. So yeah, I'm excited for it. We'll have an awesome Season 3. We're kicking off 2026 strong. So for today's episode, like I mentioned, for our listeners, it's just going to be Steve and I. We're really going to be talking about three topics: the state of Wilmac, the state of Rochester, and the state of our industry, kind of the three buckets that we tend to hover in, even when talking with our guests. But before we jump into those segments, I did want to start things off with a little bit of an icebreaker, so you can learn a little bit more about our hosts. So I'm going to direct this towards you, Steve, with some this or that. But I'm also going to provide my kind of commentary on it. All right. So we're going to start things off with, do you prefer big picture strategy or execution details?
That's a great question. I think you know the answer.
I for sure know the
definitely
answer.
prefer big picture strategy,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
like to get into the execution as well.
Yes, I'm with you there. I was trying to think of it from more of the marketing side, and like culture branding is definitely more, I feel, of the big picture strategy, but I also like the nitty gritty details and the analytics part of it. I have to say right now I'd probably lean more towards the execution details, but I know I need to step out more. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I think I know the answer for all of these for you, but we'll see. I'll
The
check
audience
myself.
doesn't.
Yeah, the audience doesn't, exactly. Okay, next one in our this or that is back-to-back meetings or a clear calendar.
Oh, you might be wrong on this. You'd probably think clear calendar, but and that's probably should be the correct answer in someone in my position, so I can make it myself and think about strategy and bigger picture things.
Yeah,
But I also like back-to-back meetings because it makes you feel like you're accomplishing things are getting done. So as long as the decisions are actually being made and the meetings aren't just fluff, I don't mind back-to-back meetings.
yeah, I'd agree with that. I think I'm an introvert at heart, so I do love that focus time and being able to sit down and kind of hone in and grind. I've been when I have had those kind of blocks in my calendar, I've been listening to our wedding playlist to
There you
dumb down
go.
our songs. But I do like it when those back-to-back meetings are, like you said, you come out with something, you come out with action items, you come out with progress. So I think I'm with you on that one too. I was gonna guess back-to-back meetings, honestly, for you as an extrovert. I know you like to talk to people, so yeah, interesting. All right, on to number 3. We've got 5. So This or that, in the office or out with customers and partners?
So I think it's very important for the majority of employees to be out with customers and partners. And that includes myself. I think when you're trying to build a culture and build collaboration, it's also important to be in the office. And I have enjoyed, since moving from sales to CEO, I've enjoyed being in the office a lot more. I do, though, probably if you had to put a gun to my head, I'd say out with customers.
Yeah. It's I think if you had asked me this question when we were at State Street, I would have 1000% said out with customers and partners. But now that we have a fun, inviting office that's very collaborative, like you said, I do enjoy coming in the office. I love that routine. But like you said, we can't do our job without our customers and partners, and especially now post COVID when people are used to now getting back in person, like those conversations are so valuable in that relationship building aspect.
Yeah. I don't think we've shown The Office in the podcast. Maybe we'll
No.
have to do that. I'm looking out to an enormous room with a bunch
Yeah.
of people collaborating and working right now. They did a great job in it. We're in the 5-star building in Rochester, New York, on the 10th floor. As well as we have offices in Toronto and Manhattan, but headquartered in Rochester. We'll have to maybe at the opening of one of our podcasts do a little camera shoot of the office and everyone in it.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of action going on. Putting green, basketball hoop, the whole bit.
Yeah, an MTV Welcome to My Crib segment, for sure. Like you said, we've definitely, the culture part has been a little bit more physically reflected with our office build out, and we've been there now for it's going to be 2 years in March, which is crazy to think about. We've been out of State Street for 2 years. But yeah, I agree. We'll have to show everyone the digs. I know they get to see your cool paintings behind you and your headshots, but definitely. All right, last two. I think this one might be a tougher one for you, but New York City or Boston?
New York City.
Oh, okay. No thought there. No
No.
contest.
The New England Patriots and the Boston fandom has completely annoyed me this year. So
Yeah.
I would say I love Boston. It's a great city. It's very accessible. Get to the beach, get to the mountains, but doesn't really hold a candle to Manhattan, in my opinion. As I've gotten older, I've thought that. Obviously, Manhattan is very different than Boston. Boston's when you really look at the two, a small city compared to New York, and the action and kind of the energy you feel in Manhattan is really uncomparable. So that was quicker than you thought. I
Yeah,
would have
that
normally
was
taken a little
way
time, but
quicker.
the whole Boston sports fans lately have gotten
Yeah.
me very annoyed.
Now that the Patriots are good again, we not a fan. Interesting. I don't feel like I can make a hard decision on it because I don't think I've been to either of them enough. I know you lived in both of them too, so I thought it'd be a little bit more difficult, but I can see why you're
Yeah.
picking that
So
one
I
too.
lived in Boston for 6 years right out of college, and then
Mhm.
or 7 years actually, and then Manhattan for closer to 10.
Mm.
But I was a little older too, so that maybe made it a little easier.
Yeah.
But met my wife in Manhattan as well, so that helps.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. That helps. And you're heading there next week, right?
Yeah, going down for the first couple days next week. Have
Nice.
some meetings, see some of our employees, make sure the office is running steady down there. So
Yeah.
excited. Chad, our new sales VP, who was on a podcast late in season 2,
Hmm.
is meeting me there, and we have some meetings. So pretty pumped up about that, and see Andrew, one of our sales guys, who is located down there.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear, and I'm excited to hear how it goes. It'll be the first trip of 2026.
Yeah, I need to be down there more often this year. It'll be a once a month attempt to get down to Manhattan.
Yeah, I like it. Maybe we could even record a few podcasts down there. You never know. Could be
They
pretty
probably
cool.
have some nice studios down
Yeah, I was about to say. All right, and last question in our this or that segment: basketball or golf?
Man, I
I have
mean,
a very clear answer on this one, but
it's I have a very clear answer too.
really,
Yeah, golf.
that's what I figured.
If
Uh,
again, maybe with age things are changing. If if you had asked me, yeah, I don't know. Once I was done playing basketball out of college, it was definitely golf. I actually rather watch golf than basketball too. I'm not
really,
that big of a fan of the NBA.
yeah, I agree.
Um, I don't. It's kind of a boring game at this point, in my opinion. I still enjoy watching college basketball, but not nearly as much as I like watching golf. So, and obviously, try to play as much
Yeah.
golf as possible. But yeah, golf is ahead of basketball. But you never know; as it could flip at any point.
Yeah, yeah, and for our listeners, both we've got a lot of competitive athletes from Wilmac, but Steve and I both played basketball in college, so that's why I had to ask that question. My clear answer is basketball for sure. Golf, I maybe go out once a year, and I don't like the fact that I'm not good at it.
You just
So
got to bite
that's
the bullet for a year and know you're gonna
yeah,
stink, and then you'll get over the hump.
yeah. I got my fiance a putting green for
There you
Christmas,
go. Yeah.
and I've been using it more than him. So I'm trying to hone my skills. I gotta level
I
up for
mean,
sure.
our putting green out in the office, it barely gets touched.
I know. I'll have to change that. I gotta start working on my game. He wants a golf simulator in the house eventually, so we'll see when that happens.
So do I. I
Yeah,
don't know if that's ever happening.
yeah. All right. Thanks, Steve, for sticking with me and doing the icebreaker segment, just so our listeners can get to know us a little bit better. But now we'll get into kind of the nitty gritty of what we were here to talk about today, starting with the state of Womack. So I wanted to take a quick minute to reflect on 2025 with like some top highlights that come to mind, starting with like the sales channel marketing sphere. Like, what are some of those top highlights from 2025 that come to mind for you?
So I think the biggest highlight would probably just in general be our growth.
Yeah.
I don't think that we absolutely knocked it out of the ballpark with our booked sales. But because our focus over the last 2 or 3 years has been so much on ARR, which is annual reoccurring revenue, we were still able to grow 23% on total revenue last year, which is great. Getting into the double digits or the seven figures in revenue is awesome. Means we've more than doubled our revenue size since I've acquired the company in 2022. So super excited about that. I think we have some flagship deals. We obviously had a monster deal with, I would say, I think it's a top three bank in the United States.
Mhm.
Um, awesome project, going real well. Should be a customer for a long, long time. Um, we had another awesome deal with a local Rochester bank that is really, we're hoping, kicks off kind of our Rochester traction as we've struggled to kind of gain traction in our own little home here. So we're hoping between that deal and that new customer and some of the effort we're putting into the local community, led by probably me and you getting involved in all this stuff, that
Yeah.
really kicks off that. So excited about those two, probably the most. One of our big things is to get our kind of flywheel, so to speak, working with our new products that I'm sure we'll dive into. Is we are getting going with partners. So we have a lot of partners that resell our products, and this year, probably 30 to 40% of our sales were through partners. So I think
Yeah.
that's awesome and really expands us. Obviously, we had some key hires, key maneuvers that have put us in a great position heading into 2026. And then obviously the launch of Continuity WFM, which I'm
Yeah.
sure we'll talk about, was huge. And looking forward to that in 2026. So I think 2025 was awesome, kind of a stepping stone for us. This upcoming year is probably going to be a bigger gap year. So pumped up.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you're talking about growth too, like it aligns with some of the stuff we're starting to see externally with our top 100 recognitions and growing locally. And like you said, a big part of this podcast is that it's putting us in rooms with people both leading locally and in our industry, just to have the conversation and spread the awareness of Wilmac. And that, like you said, that's just a stepping stone to keep growing. But I'll agree, and I there's a lot of great things. It's tough to kind of pick one, and when you reflect, you're like, okay, that was less than a year ago. That seemed like a lifetime ago. Even with Chad now, in his role, he's 2 months in. It feels like he's been here a hot minute now. So I'm excited to just see that ball continue to roll and us gaining that momentum, like you said, for sure, a gap year. You mentioned Continuity WFM. I definitely have to agree that was a top highlight, especially from the dev team. I guess coming from your perspective, we never formally launched like Wilmac Continuity Replay when it was originally built in like 2015, just because there were so many iterations to it. We did hard launch Continuity Replay Cloud, I believe, in 2023, and now Continuity WFM has just really been built from the ground up. Like how, from your perspective as the leader of a company, where does that measure in terms of like, this is just completely new, this isn't a great question and I'm not framing it properly, but I think you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no. So for our listeners that might not know, when Wilmac has always been a value-added reseller. So we would resell other people's, our partners, and we would implement it and support it. We started building Continuity Replay in the late 2010s, kind of completely half-assed it, and were able to land some huge customers because we knew they needed that solution. And then, as Emily said, in 2023, we launched it when we had a proper CTO behind it. We had built out a dev team. We knew we were going in that direction, and we launched the cloud version of it. But we had already had a pretty good customer base. We knew there was traction out there. We had recruited sales guys that had sold similar products, and Continuity Replay sat in our world a little bit. So it wasn't truly a start from scratch type of solution. Continuity WFM is a completely like, hey, we think we have an idea. Customers are telling us they need something like this. We do market research ourselves, maybe got a little help from a couple partners that live in that world, some private equity firms, on the research, and then decided, hey, let's do this.
Right.
So I would say, looking back, I mean, I don't know what you thought. We just kind of made the decision. We had resolve for it.
Yeah.
We knew we had interest, but it's definitely a jump out there. Like, hey, we don't know if this will 100% work. So, and then our team built it. Bob and his team built it a lot faster than we thought. We pushed them hard. And then obviously we got traction right away, which was great. I think we also kind of got lucky and good timing that it's a solution that isn't built in the specific industry, public safety, PSAPs or 911 centers. They don't have this solution. It's 911 centers are mission critical. It's life or death. It's not, oh, we can save some money here. 911 centers are actually saving people's lives, and if it's not staffed correctly, what happens. I mean, you hear stories in the news all the time about someone calls 911, they can't get a hold of them, or they get a hold of someone who isn't ready to take on the challenge. So I think we felt confident between the WFM world and the public safety world that we had enough knowledge to jump into it. But we've never launched a product. We've been kind of flying by the seat of our pants here, but all going well. And I don't think there's another way to do it. I mean, you just got to kind of jump in and be uncomfortable and go out and see what happens. And I think we've learned a bunch of lessons. Everything's not perfect. We're still learning lessons. I just got off a 2-hour call about the WFM go-to-market before hopping on this. So I also think we're benefiting from AI. You know, we built this purely on it's powered by AI. So a lot of the WFM solutions out there built in the early 2000s don't have any of that type of power or feature functionality. So I think it's been challenging, but the possibility and potential is just so great, and I think it's exciting. And I think we're still at, like, if you think about it, if we're going to 100, we're still at step like 1.2. So we're still in the very early days.
Right, and it's hard to be patient throughout it. I think we're very similar in the fact that, like, I want results right away. With the launch of it, like, we had been kind of holding on to it. We really didn't hold on to it for that long, in all honesty, like, in terms of keeping it in the back pocket, building it out. We knew that there was a problem to solve for it, but we were too excited about the message, so we launched it. But yeah, I agree. Hold on, I'm gonna cough.
Emily is at home because she's been under the weather, by the way.
Yeah, sorry about that. We can edit that out in post if we need to, but I've been struggling with a cold now for, it feels like, forever.
I can hop on and go into the next one if you like. So what Emily was gonna ask me next was any highlights from our dev team or operations team. So Bob has been leading our dev team. He comes from a few different companies, but a great startup story here in Rochester, Cloud Checker, who ended up selling to NetSuite, I believe. But Bob's got a ton of experience and has been able to build this team out great. He was on an episode in season 1 or season 2. His team continues to grow. They continue to move at a much faster pace than I think we thought. Out of everyone in the office, they adopted AI quicker and probably more efficiently than anyone. That being said, we do have everybody in the office using AI at this point, but those guys really took advantage of it, I thought, especially this year, just producing things quick. We have some guys that aren't on the dev team but are engineers by trade, supporting some of our other products or helping the frontline guys sell, that have gotten into vibe coding and have vibe coded a bunch of feature functionalities, have transition, continuity replay, UI. And then Bob's team's been able to take that kind of vibe coding and professionalize it and make sure it's legit. So that's been exciting. And I think this upcoming year, Bob has a couple new hires he's got planned. So I think we're pumped up about that. We want to grow the dev team here in Rochester. Out of all our teams, dev is probably one of the most important to grow locally. And I think utilizing the universities, especially RIT and the co-op system that is program that's worked so well for us. So pumped about that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm back. Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Steve, and especially, like, Bob and his team are, I feel like, very true embodiments of Wilmac's culture. Like, they live it out every day, very, very visibly. And especially on the AI front, Bob's been pushing the leadership team especially to figure out and think of new ways to use agentic AI, and how are we incorporating our partnership with AWS in that. We've been having a lot of conversations, which has been fun, and it's enabled us on a separate level, so we don't necessarily have to hire urgently for something like on the marketing team, on the market research side, or on the enablement side, and pulling from our recorded calls and that sort of thing. So It's been really fun to see them develop and to think that Bob has been here a little over 2 years. It's pretty crazy to reflect on how much that dev team has grown and leveled up our company in just a little over 2 years. So yeah, excited to see what'll come this year with WFM, with Continuity Replay, Next Gen. We've seen some sneak peeks, but I can't wait to share with everyone. So, and last but not least, I was going to ask if you had any top highlights from the operational side of things, the service and accounting teams.
Yeah, so I think Mark came in halfway through the year, maybe three or after the first quarter. So Mark Huber, who's been with Wilmac 30 plus years, started in the operations side, then he was in sales engineering, got promoted to run our entire operations. And he came in, guns blazing, knew what he wanted to do, created great culture over there. I think he's still organizing the team in a great way. But obviously, that's the team that's been with Wilmac and grew Wilmac to what it was. And I think Mark's doing a great job. They've had some big projects that they're dealing with right now. We deal and work with some high-profile companies, and those can be challenging to work with for small companies. So they do a great job with it, and looking forward to what's going to happen in 2026.
Yeah, agreed. And I have to shout out Joe too and his accounting team and the role that Joe stepped into, kind of integrating the operational side of things and handling a lot of the day-to-day execution. They've been moving and grooving too and making those similar to Mark changes to those internal processes to just help us level up in a even easier sense moving forward.
Yeah. And, Joe and Mark are super important to what's done here at Wilmac. They might not get as much time on podcasts because they're not talking in the front lines or product strategy or anything, which is really what the podcast is geared towards. But as far as day to day how Wilmac operates, none of it would be moving without the two of them.
No, completely agree. Okay, I'm going to keep us on time. And I guess to close out this section on the state of Wilmac, our fiscal year doesn't align with the calendar year. We ended our fiscal year in October. We're 2 months into our current fiscal year. We're gearing up for our offsite leadership team, our strategy planning in a couple weeks. What's been top of mind for you as Wilmac's president and CEO? Like, where are you seeing momentum? Like, what has your time been dedicated towards recently?
Yeah, so I go back and forth whether this fiscal year is great or sucks. But one of the things it does allow you to do is in late December, when a lot of companies are trying to nail down deals, and we are still too, but it's not crucial for us since we're basically in the middle of our Q1. So I get to sit down and really strategize on what we want to do, what we're doing well, where we want to go. We are off to a great Q1, which really pumps me up. Continuity Replay has kind of been re-envisioned, and with this current sales team we have, they're cranking along very well. And Chad's kind of came in and put some processes in place. So seeing how that is going really kind of pumps me up for 2026. Our Continuity WFM, one of the biggest lessons I've learned is you got to just keep pushing and pushing. Anything 100%, you're going to be waiting forever. So make the decision, go. If you have to correct it along the way, then figure it out and correct it. But don't sit in indecision and waiting until everything's perfect. So I think one of our big pushes for Wilmac in 2026 is that. And we have a saying, drivers, not passengers, and that goes right along with that. Like, just keep pushing, keep driving, and Continuity WFM needs that. Right now, we have a goal of hitting 15 million this year, which is very doable. I think the overall message to Wilmac is now that we're starting to round out our two core products kind of the solutions and partners that we still want to resell that kind of fit into the ecosystem of our products. So you're mostly with that talking about NICE CX1 and Five9. I think we are starting to see maybe the vision that I've thought about forever start to come into play. By showing that we're actually growing when we're still trying to figure things out, that's a good sign that once we have things figured out, which we're getting close to, and get the flywheel going, that this thing can scale.
Right.
I think the scalability on our workforce management product is probably the largest. It's not as complex as our Continuity Replay or some of the stuff we resell. So I think we can scale that quicker. So I think saying out loud that the goal is to be $100 million company isn't, this big, hairy, audacious goal. Like that is what we're going for.
Yeah.
It might take us 5-6 years to get there, and that's what we're probably going to be discussing about in our leadership meeting. What is the years and how we reverse engineer getting to 15 million this year, getting to 100 million in 5 years. I think putting that out there and start really detailing that is going to be big for us this year. Obviously, we want to keep hiring. We want local talent, but we do want the best talent. I think we've learned the past 6 months that we're okay hiring outside of Rochester. Things still work well. The world's coming back to the office all over the place. So people are traveling more. But I think we are, as far as products, people, and process, we're as far along as we've ever been. And I think we have the right path right now to even get further on that.
Mm-hmm.
So those are kind of the figures, and it'll be interesting to see where these products go in the next couple of years. But again, we'll keep pushing. Again, can't say how excited I am for this. I'm also, as we've talked about, I'm going to be getting out into the conferences and speaking circuit more often. So pumped up about that. I know we'll talk about some of the Rochester stuff that you and I have been involved in. So I think 2026 is going to be a big year for Wilmac.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of great things going on. You're speaking into existence the things that we're working towards. So we'll keep that ball rolling. Moving into the state of Rochester. I'm going to cough again. Moving into the state of Rochester. Steve mentioned his and my involvement kind of in the local community continuing to grow. So we're going to start off with Steve. You've joined the Greater Rochester Chamber of Commerce Board. And for our listeners, we had Bob Duffy on the podcast a little later in season 2, and he is the president and CEO of the Greater Rochester Chamber of Commerce. Steve, with you joining that board, very highly regarded in the community, like what are some of the things that you've learned that you've enjoyed with being a part of that group? Any themes that are dominating those conversations, and kind of what you've observed growing and operating a business in Rochester, but also seeing it from kind of like the ground level of what the chamber's doing.
Yeah, it's been interesting, that's for sure. I think I've got invited to be a part of the board earlier in 2025, but we meet quarterly, so I've only been to 3 meetings. Wilmac is definitely, if not the smallest, one of the smallest companies on the board. So it's pretty much all the large organizations in Rochester that you could think of and their leaders. So it's been interesting. I think what I've said about Rochester since moving back from Manhattan echoes in those board meetings. I think there's a lot of room to grow. I think, we tend to focus Rochester in the 3 or 4 key industries: higher ed, hospitals, or healthcare, if you want to term it that, and real estate, mostly commercial real estate, I would say, or developers. And then there's an optics world out there that people like to talk about as our technology world, but I don't know actually how large it is now that Bausch & Lomb is gone. Kodak and Xerox, the 2 major players, are not non-existent, but they're not what they were by any means. If most people my age, let alone people your age, have no idea that Kodak was basically like an Amazon back in the day, and it was sitting right here in Rochester. So I think sometimes the people don't necessarily want to cope with the reality of what Rochester has become, and because it's still a great city, it's great potential, it's a great place to live, but it's not anchored by those core tenets anymore. And the tenant and those industries that are here have been what they are for a long time here. Are they going to be the rocket fuel for Rochester to get us, an attractive place where people want to move, where high-paying jobs are all over the place, where there's office buildings in the city that are occupied? I don't know. So I still think technology has a big play for Rochester. I think AI, what we're trying to do to grow to where we want to be, to have the type of employees that we want to have and the amount, I think, you build a dozen of those in Rochester, that's very beneficial to Rochester. But you need to be part of the community, start talking to all these people, and really to set the stage for that. I think Rochester, for the most part, they help each other out. Businesses try to help each other out for the most part. I'd like to see them do a little better job of it, the big guys helping the smaller guys out. But it's business, and we all understand that, and they're going to do what's best for their company, if that's what they feel. So that's kind of how I felt in Rochester in general, and still feel like that as part of the board, and that's kind of what I see echoing in the conversations there. Now, I think there's gonna be some change. I think there's some younger blood coming in there, and even some of the guys and girls that have been there for a while, I feel like they want to embrace the change, want to embrace AI. But the biggest companies in the world are AI technology type companies, and Rochester's missing that right now. So I think we have to embrace it, and I think Wilmac's in a perfect spot to do it, but we have to embrace the community as well. So that's kind of my high level view on Rochester. And again, I've only been a part of 3 board meetings, so still kind of feeling my way around in there.
Yeah, but it's exciting that you get that like really close view into what other companies are thinking too and their perspectives on it, and that you get to throw your hat in the ring too into that conversation, because I know other committees and that sort of thing have stemmed out of being a part of this board, which is really exciting, and we'll keep the ball rolling on that. We'll keep talking about it, especially the AI side of things, and how we can pioneer in Rochester as part of that. So all right, that being said, I'll quickly touch on the fact that I was able to join the Rochester Young Professionals Board in 2025 and help on the marketing side of things, which really shortly put, it's about facilitating connections in Rochester with the young professional community, whatever age range that might be. I'm originally from Buffalo. I came to Rochester for school. I graduated during COVID and got the job at Wilmac out of COVID and staying here and not really having too many commitments to stay here. So it's been really exciting for me to kind of get to meet a lot of other young professionals who are in the grind, who want to be better, who want to be Rochester's future leaders, and to explore some of the cool spots that Rochester has to offer. We did a women's event at the Susan B. Anthony House a while back. We visited the Rochester Yacht Club for a summer kickoff. We supported nonprofits like the Dimitri House. So it's really exposed me to a lot of the great things that Rochester has to offer, and start to formulate more of my opinions on that landscape and what I want to do here. So realistically, we're all just trying to figure it out, and that's been fun to learn too, that it's just time for us to expand our horizons, sit in that uncomfortability and lean into it and keep growing. So realistically, I'm excited. Rochester's a great place to be, especially at Wilmac, like Steve talked about. We've got some really fun guests planned locally, some local leaders that we'll get to talk to this season, a couple that we've already recorded with. So yeah, we'll keep that ball rolling. We got to keep our heads down and keep grinding. All right.
We we also are involved in some foundations and charities and stuff. I don't
Yeah.
know if you want to mention. We do a lot with the Pluto Foundation.
Yep.
I think we're gonna have Ron Pluta on one of the podcasts for season 3. So excited
Yep.
for that. And Malt, I know if you want to name some of the ones you've
Yeah, yeah. So
led.
I got to shout out Alex Reed, our executive admin at Wilmac. She's taken on a lot of this nonprofit relationship building. So we just finished up the fourth year, I believe, of our Pirate Toy Fund toy drive for Christmas, of our Small Business Council Thanksgiving appeal in terms of collecting food for Thanksgiving and donating that. We run our school supply. We've just ran our third, I believe, school supply drive for Jewish Family Services over the summer. So we're really starting to get exposed to more of those nonprofits in the area, like Steve mentioned, the Pluto Cancer Center, attending that gala, Make a Wish, which Joe Brienzi, our director of finance, is involved with. So yeah, we've just really been kind of opening our arms to those awesome Rochester nonprofits and keeping our mind open to where we can give. So yeah, all
Yeah.
right.
Before we move on, the other Rochester
Yeah.
thing I would mention is our involvement with some of the universities.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. We actually are recording. This isn't going to air in order, but we have our podcast recording with Jackie Mazeral from RIT, the dean of the Saunders College of Business at RIT. Steve mentioned the co-ops that we're investing a lot of time and effort into building. Along with that, Golisano Institute, we had Ian Mortimer on. They're actually expanding to Buffalo and just announced that fairly recently and opening a building downtown, which is really exciting. Am I missing any, Steve? Those
I
are my
think
top two that came
yeah,
to
and
mind.
we've done a couple things with U of R
Yes.
business school. They've done
Mhm.
did a pricing contest with them and their
Yeah.
students and a couple areas with them. So I'd say those 3 are probably the main ones that we've built relationships with. But it's important to us to recruit locally and build jobs here locally.
Yeah.
One of the things about tech firms is most of the jobs are high paying. Wilmac, there's no job minimum wage jobs at Wilmac. Even entry levels are well paid, but most of our employees are on the upper end of what Rochester median salaries are,
Yeah.
and that's like any technology company. So I think that's also another benefit of being able to grow that type of company in a place like Rochester that needs more high paying jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely agree. All right, so that covers our state of Rochester segment, and then last but certainly not least, we're gonna talk a little bit about some of the news going on in our industry. I'm gonna start with two, I guess, of the three things I wanted to hit on because we'd already hit on them in some of our previous episodes with some of the analysts that we spoke to throughout season 2. But I'll start with NICE closing their acquisition of Cognigy. We've already been seeing the effects basically as Wilmac, a partner of NICE. They're introducing us, they're showing demos of the product. Like, Steve, kind of what have you been seeing with that acquisition?
Yeah. I mean, so for the background here on the audience, NICE is our longest and largest partner. We've been partners with them since the late 90s. And they're zeroing in on 4 billion in revenue. They have a new CEO as of early 2024, and he has came in with a different mindset than Barack, their past CEO. They are full on in on AI. I think there's more acquisitions to be had. I think they're going to be aggressive. Scott comes from a sales world where Barack came from an engineering world, and those two, I would say, tend to be different type of CEOs if you're coming from those worlds. I think Scott's full in on innovation and growth. So it'll be interesting. So The first big acquisition was close to $1 billion. Small company, under $50 million in revenue, but technology is supposed to be unbelievable. We've seen it, a few different demos of it. It seems cool, but I think it kind of is a micro example of what's happening on the macro level with all these AI companies, and the valuations are just enormous. And we'll see if actual, the profits and the money comes in to make those valuations worth it and make them real. But I think, the market, the S&P 500 right now is stood up on a lot of it. I do happen to believe in these products and AI that this will happen. So I think it's a good thing. And I think what you're going to see from NICE is more acquisitions of AI companies. I think they want to move outside and not be considered just a contact center company, and they want to be considered an AI company, a platform company, so to speak. So I think it's awesome. They're a great partner. I think with the way they're moving, it creates a lot of opportunity for us. Our continuity replay product fits in well with their product. We enjoy reselling their product, obviously, as they have a phenomenal product as well. And they seem to be more partner focused than they've ever been. We've had our ups and downs with NICE, as I'm sure any vendor partner do. But they seem to be a lot more, hey, we need to make sure our partners are, if we want to hit the revenue numbers that we're telling Wall Street, then we need our partners selling a lot more. So I think it's a good thing for Wilmac.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, it's been interesting to see Scott Russell, the NICE CEO, just make these moves very, very quickly. Which I don't know, from my perspective, 5 years in the industry now it seems very quick. So along with that, we did see a private equity firm, Thoma Bravo, close the Verint deal and merge it with Collabrio. Verint and Collabrio, both of which are partners of ours. Steve, I guess, what are your initial thoughts on that merger, and then what do you think the future of that kind of conglomerate looks like?
Yeah, pretty interesting. Thoma Bravo is one of the largest private equity companies in the world, and probably the largest. It focuses on software. Probably the largest PE firm of that. Verint and Collabrio, from our point of view, as we've been partners and resold both, play more in the back end of kind of our cycle. So NICE purchased a company in the late 2010s to make them full circle. So they have the front end of the phone system, so to speak, and then they have the back end of the recording, the analytics, all that. Verint and Collabrio just play on the back end. So I see them as pretty identical companies. Verint's a lot larger and has been around a lot bigger, probably has way more, or not probably, they definitely have more enterprise type customers. Collabrio benefited from their great partnership with Cisco. So Cisco kind of OEM'd them for a while. And I think they got a lot of market share that way. I'm not positive on how long Thoma Bravo's owned Collabrio, but at least for 3 to 5 years. So I find it very interesting that they're bringing Verint in. Verint had to do something probably. There were rumors back in the day that they would buy Five9. Then when Five9 kind of blew up, they thought Five9 would buy Verint. So I'm not surprised something happened with Verint, because they were kind of just sitting out there with huge market share, pretty good technology, but didn't seem to have the best strategy on what they wanted to do. So I think, it's a PE firm, so I would assume they're going to scale it down, make it more efficient, probably keep the partnerships with the Five9s, TalkDesk, those types of companies alive, or try to acquire one of those, which I've talked about in the past, so they can have a kind of full cycle solution and compete against CX1. Not just here and there, but fully compete against CX1 and Genesis. So I could see that happening. But it's definitely interesting because Verint and Collabrio are such similar technologies to have them both out there. I can't imagine they would keep investing in both of them as far as innovation R&D goes. I mean, they're probably going to pick one or the other, keep the other one around for support or end of life it.
Right.
So it's definitely an interesting move, but Thoma Bravo is a serious player, and they know how to not only grow companies, but more importantly, keep these companies efficient. I also think Verint probably struggled a lot because they were public. Now that they're brought private, they can be a lot more flexible with what they want to do and how they want to grow. So overall, it's probably a good thing for our industry. Probably good for Wilmac. There'll be a lot of changes. We don't do much work with Collabrio anymore, but we still do some work with Verint. So it'll be interesting to see how we're starting to see some changes. So we'll see how that plays out. But overall, for us with our Continuity Replay product, change and disruption is good. That's where our product plays the best. Not a bad thing, and we kind of knew something was going to happen with Verint at some point.
Right. And like you said, with Continuity Replay, we live in a good spot when people are changing platforms and migrating and things are made end of life. It should be exciting to see in 2026 how that merger evolves and how it continues to impact us in the industry. All right, last kind of topic of news in the state of our industry. Five9 just appointed a new CEO, Amit Mithradas. He'll be starting in February. Steve, have you heard of Amit before, or do you have any perspective on this news?
So I had not. I did do some research, and not to toot my own horn, but my kind of thesis on what Thoma Bravo, and it still is it's not proven out at this point, but thinking that Five9 might be the next one snapped up by Thoma Bravo.
Right.
The new CEO comes from the PE world and building companies to sell to the PEs. So not saying that's the plan. Who knows? Again, I have no insider information. This is Steve McDonnell's opinion. So do not take this as gospel by any means, but kind of trying to read the room here. I think there's a chance that Five9 would get picked. So they would also benefit greatly from moving to the private world. As opposed to public. They're a public company, and ever since the Zoom deal fell through, their stock has been hurting, and that kind of hurts them in reinvesting in R&D and everything. So I think it would benefit them. And their product is really sold with Verint probably 80% of the time. So they're already hand in hand. And it just makes sense. But again, we'll see. You never know. But that's kind of the research that I've done on him, and that he comes from that world. So I would think that maybe they get a professional in there to be able to do one of these types of deals. That being said, our relationship with Five9 has probably never been better. They've been a great reseller of Continuity Replay. We've just really kind of hit our stride selling their software. They're phenomenal to work with. They're super quick from other vendors that we're used to. So we've definitely enjoyed it. And everything we've seen from Five9 as a partner has been phenomenal. It's when you read, the analysts and the stuff on Wall Street that you get a little worried. And they had a bit of turnover this year. So I think maybe a deal like this would only benefit them, and in turn benefit, a partner like us.
Right. Yeah. It is interesting to see how kind of the dynamic shifts in this industry and how quickly things change. But with Five9, I did not know he had private equity background, so that's definitely interesting. I know we've touched on that in previous episodes with analysts when we've tried to pick their brains and they've kind of stayed tight-lipped about it, So again, there's just, I'm just looking at an article on it right now, and it's very, the way they frame a lot of this stuff in our industry now and these changes, everything is, this change has been made because we're repositioning and shifting towards AI, where that everything is around that. So it's interesting to see how this evolves. But
I mean, everyone's doing that, and
yeah,
because of AI, everything's moving at a way quicker pace than it ever has.
right.
But I mean, what we talked about at the beginning, where we just basically rewrapped and rebuilt Continuity Replay again to make sure we have AI use cases in there.
Yeah.
So, our WFM product is built ground up with AI.
Exactly.
It's important. It's important for a reason. It's more efficient. It's quicker. It's lower cost. So it's not necessarily just fluff. I'm sure people are getting sick of hearing about it.
Yeah.
And they want to see real live use cases. But when you do see a real live use case, you see why there's so much commotion about it.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. And you mentioned the public safety side too with WFM. Like, it's been interesting to see in an industry where we've resold for well over 30 years, and we tend to categorize them as the laggards when it comes to technology adoption, and they're starting to open their arms a little bit more to AI, which is exciting for us.
And we're quickly seeing, even on that side, I know we will probably have a different podcast dedicated to that. But you're seeing a lot of the big guys acquire small AI companies in that world as well. Whether you want to call it GovTech or public safety, doesn't really matter. But, we saw Prepared's a company that we've looked to kind of replicate how they've built out their company in that space. And they were just acquired by Axon, obviously an enormous player in that world. And then Motorola, come to find out, has been acquiring a bunch of players as well. So it's happening. It's exciting. And I think it all just benefits Wilmac.
Yeah, definitely. So exciting times to be in for sure. Excited to kick off season 3. I don't think we've done a solo episode with just you and me in a while. Before we wrap up, we covered a lot on Wilmac, Rochester, our industry. Our listeners got to know a little bit more about us. But Steve, final question to you. What are you most excited about for season 3 of the Wilmac Wire?
I think we're going to have some awesome guests, and I think we're finally kind of hitting our stride on how to interview these guests. I think we're going to have some more industry people this season, and the Rochester folks that we do pick are going to be, well-known people that I think people will get pumped about to kind of hear their background, their story. So excited to take it to the next level, put some more time into it, and feel more comfortable behind this camera, and go from there. What about you?
Yeah, I'm excited. I love a challenge. I love chatting with people and, like you said, learning about their experiences. Like when you tell me, hey, this person has is this distinguished figure in the community, I will email them until they accept the invite to be on our podcast, and then I like the pressure of those conversations. Same thing with our industry. I want us to be in rooms with people we might feel a little bit out of our element with, but I think that just creates good conversations. It helps us grow that Wilmac brand, get to sit with people like our listeners and build that culture that Wilmac emits internally and translate it to externally. So yeah, I'm excited. We've got a lot of great podcasts now being recorded, being scheduled out, so I'm ready for it. All right, that being said, this concludes the first episode of Season 3 of the Wilmac Wire. Happy New Year to all our listeners. Thank you for tuning in and sticking with us. You can find all our episodes on YouTube for video, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, all that fun jazz. And as always, you can find Steve and I on LinkedIn, so make sure to connect. All right, Steve, thanks for joining me on today's episode. That was a good one.
Awesome episode. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Wilmac Wire. If you liked today's conversation, make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or watch full episodes on our YouTube channel. You can also learn more about Wilmac Technologies and our work in customer interaction technology at wilmactech.com. We'll be back soon with more conversations with the drivers, those shaping our industry and those building right here in Western New York. See you next time.